Hello, it's Rich Rosen, founder and CEO of Fastcall, and I'm going to do a deep dive into support options and how Fastcall provides support for the application. So I am logged into Salesforce. Um, we can be in Lightyear Classic. You'll see that we have our end user settings, which are here. Our admin settings are here, and you'll notice that we will have a support option both for user settings and admin settings. Your end users, if only set up as end users, would only have this support option. If you're an admin, you can also provide support here. Just as a note, since we're talking about this page, we're using permission sets to determine what the admin sees versus the user. In the end user support, um, we're going to ask for a case to be submitted, and you'll notice up here we may ask for support access in Salesforce, which is granted in Salesforce. And support is granted up here. If you notice, I'm going to click on my name. Is that in the screen? I think it's in the screen. Yeah, it looks like it's in the screen. I'm going to click on my name and my settings, and this is not Salesforce settings, this is my settings, my user settings. Um, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put in access, and I can grant login access to any package that I've installed. You can see here, I can grant access to Salesforce itself. I could grant access to my company's administrator. This is how Salesforce grants support access. So if I grant an access over here for a month, which I'm going to do, because Fastcall actually needs to have support access to our own application for us to access certain protected settings. That's how Salesforce does it. So there are times when I have to log into my own account with support access. Salesforce does not notify the partner when access is granted. I don't know why they do not. So please, once access is granted, you do need to let us know. We won't otherwise be notified. Okay, so we were talking about let's get rid of this again. So that's so we were talking about the support form, but I mentioned that because that is important. If you are opening a case, we haven't added this yet, though we are going to. We will always ask if you've granted support access. You could always just say down here, support is granted, and that's really helpful, right? So we know. We are going to add a checkbox here to the support form. But speaking of support form is subject, the case reason, we've got a couple of questions here, and they're going to reveal some additional data points. Now, some of this information, so for example, is this a new user or are you changing the user license? So they're obviously this is a dependent pick list. Some of these questions we don't know. So we're asking what browser the user is on. We don't know that, right? Or their OS, are they on a wired internet connection, which we'd always prefer. But if it's Wi-Fi, you would tell us here. We want to know if the user is in an office or home. These are the same questions we're going to ask in support. So if these fields are not selected, this is the first thing we're going to ask in support, which is just going to slow down the case. So we're always going to ask this information because we want to get an idea of sort of what the user's environment is. And these are, as I mentioned, dependent pick lists. So some of them will change, though these won't. And this actually case reasons call quality. So if the user's on a Wi-Fi connection, that's going to affect call quality. So we're going to ask that. Same reason why we ask office or home, because if they're home, there's also a good chance that well, but in both cases, they could be on Wi-Fi in an office or home. In home, they could be on a residential router. So that's another question we're going to ask. Under user, so support access is granted. You're opening a case here. Support access is granted in Salesforce. It's something that Salesforce controls. These things are related. All of your settings, everything here is 100% in your Salesforce org. Fastcall does not see any of your settings. So that's why we ask for support access, and that's why we're going to ask uh, questions about your settings because we don't see them otherwise. So we log in by support. That's how we're going to see your settings. So under the user settings, we've got some information about the individual user. This is coming from the Salesforce user record. This is coming from the Salesforce user record. This might be two. If these are blank, it's because they're not on the Salesforce user record. You can complete that. It just tells us more about who the user is. Again, we're asking more questions about things that we're going to find in Salesforce and out. So again, we are asking here again, about the browser, the internet connection, the OS, and though in this particular case, we're also asking about the make and model of a headset, which sometimes we're going to ask about. Again, if it's a call quality issue, if it's a low-end cheap headset, we're going to tell you that. We're looking for a high-quality wired, purpose-built headset. I'm actually in a Jabra now. I've got a Jabra. I didn't put my model number. I think I'm on a Jabra 80 or 90. They're both related. I don't remember. Okay, and when you submit the case to us, this is getting sent along with the case. So that's important. We want to see this. Um, these settings here, this is coming from the application, user status, the device, and the caller ID is also a common area of support. Call's not working because of the wrong devices. This is probably the second most common issue for support. Oh, the application's not working because the devices are not set correctly. There's no soft phone or the caller ID is here. So when you're opening a case, this form is being sent to us so we can see that. So opening a case as an admin doesn't matter. We'll see whether the case was submitted as a user or an admin, but I can tell you that if we ask for support as the end user, we want to see the end user settings. We want to be able to log in and make a call as if we're an end user. And when you're granting support as an end user, we are logging in as the end user. What's different is the internet connection, browser, PC. We're logging in on another computer, which is also something that you can do via support as their admin. You can log in on your PC, and if the issue replicates, could be a bug. If the issue doesn't replicate, chances are it's the browser, it's the PC, could even be an operating system issue. But that's one of the things that we're going to try to, if we ask for support access as the user, we want to make a call as the user logging in with those credentials, which means all these settings. If we ask for support access as an admin, we want to be able to log in and get access to our admin settings. If we are logged in as an end user, we can't get access to any of our admin settings. So we may ask for access as both. Only a licensed user can grant support access. Salesforce controls that. If the admin or IT or support opens the ticket with us and we ask for support and they don't have a license, you're going to need a license. So you're going to have to swap that with the user in order to grant support access. Salesforce controls that. So sometimes we're going to want to see support as an admin. Sometimes we're going to want to see support as a user. Last point here, which is kind of important, you can, on your user panel, you show who's an admin, who's not. Org is not a great example of that. Antonio is our CTO, but let's just say Antonio is a Fastcall admin, but he's not a Salesforce admin. Most of the time that might not matter, but there are situations where we do need to get access to a Salesforce setting. Usually it is around the site, if we need to look at the site, and that may require a Salesforce admin. So the Fastcall admin does not necessarily have to be a Salesforce admin, but there might be an occasion where we may ask for access as an admin. So if you granting the support are not a Salesforce admin, we may need that. Most of our subscribers who are admins are also Salesforce admins, but not all. But I do mention that. So only licensed users can grant support access, and there are times when we need to log in as a Salesforce admin. So what else to talk about? We have a lot of information online. Search, if I had a question about the soft phone, we really try hard to keep these help docs up to date. And with like what I'm doing now with a deep dive, either with video or text. So if the information's not available online, tell us and we will create the information online because we always want whatever issue you're having to have some help docs attached to it. So hopefully this was helpful. So we talked about granting support access and submitting a case and how that sends us a copy of your settings that we're not going to otherwise see because our application is native. There's no part of the application that's outside of your Salesforce org, so we see none of your settings. So if you say, hey, the phone used by Antonio is not working, we don't know. We don't see any of those settings. We're going to have to log into your org by support to see any of the settings. So the best that you can do to help in support is be very detailed in your case and grant support access while submitting the case and tell us that it's granted. Uh, Great. Hopefully this was helpful. Ping us with an email if you have any feedback, and otherwise have a fantastic day.